I'm cold. You're cold. It's a Blackhawks off day. Let's do a mailbag show next on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. Happy Tuesday. I'm Zawaski with Mario Tirabassi. Sarah's here running the show as always. We have got a jam-packed mailbag show for you. So if you got to us on Discord or Twitter or Blue Sky or all those wonderful places, we're going to do our best to get to your questions today. But as always, priority goes to our diehards and our Discord. So that's where we're going to start the show. Before we do us a favor, hit that like button for us, subscribe to the YouTube page as well. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you're not just listening, but you're following or subscribed on your favorite app, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. With that, should we just get started? Not much else to do. Might as well get right into the questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, small talk. How's the weather?
Cold.
Freaking cold.
Freaking cold.
Yeah.
It's freaking freezing,
Hopefully
Mr.
everyone's
Bigglesworth.
staying warm out there.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the freezing cold of the Midwest, maybe you're in the freezing cold of the Gulf Coast where it's blizzard temperatures.
My daughter goes, man, I wish we can go to North Carolina right now. I was like, check the weather.
Where
She's
it's snowing.
It's snowing.
Yeah. Yes.
The answer is always San Diego.
Why not?
All right, ready? All right, let's do it, Sarah.
Yes,
I'm going to need that to be bigger. I am quite old, unless you want to read them, Sarah.
Read it.
Which one do you guys want to start with?
Let's start with any of our diehard questions.
Let's do the, do we have the Rantanen one? It's like Dead Hawk and,
open game.
yeah.
I believe I do.
I can pull it up here. I got it here. It's from Warm Bedards, which we would welcome these days. He says, in the recent 32 Thoughts, Elliot Friedman talked about the Avs and Mikko Rantanen not close to a deal, and that if a deal can't be done by the deadline, they might be open to trading him. I can't imagine the Avs would want him going to a contender in the playoffs. Do you think they'd want prospects or be okay with high picks? I guess with the hiring of O'Hearn and all, it seems like Kyle from Chicago might be ready to take a big swing for a big name soon. Thoughts? And then Dead Hawk follows up and says, if Rantanen is a possibility, how do contract extensions work in scenarios like this in the NHL? So let's start with the first question, Warren Bedards. What would it take to get Mikko Rantanen? The answer is probably more than you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Because everyone's going to want a shot at Mikko Rantanen.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, go ahead.
If you're the Avs and you're trading Mikko Rantanen at the deadline and you're trying to win a Stanley Cup, that alone doesn't make you better. So
it certainly doesn't.
I'm sure that they would want someone or someones that they could have be on their NHL roster on top of future assets as well.
So who? Let's just play GM because it's fun. Who on the Blackhawks that you think could be potentially available would satisfy the Avalanche in terms of, look, we're losing Mikko Rantanen, we know we're going to take a step down, but is there anyone on that roster now that is not Connor Bedard or not Alex Vlasic that Colorado is going to feel comfortable about adding with also picks, prospects, and everything else it's going to take to get the deal done?
My initial thought is, looking from the Avs perspective, maybe if they were to trade Rantanen, it coincides with getting Landeskog back.
Yeah,
which is a big question mark.
We keep hearing, and then nothing ever seems to come of it.
But also seems like, I mean, he's been skating pretty frequently, so that's, a positive sign at least. My initial thought is both of Taylor Hall and Ryan Donato. I know neither of them individually make up what Mikko Rantanen brings. Neither of them combined make up what Mikko Rantanen brings.
I don't think so.
But it's at least two guys that you can plug into your NHL lineup that I think for the Avs, their depth their depth options on the Avalanche. I think Ryan Donato makes a good fourth line guy for an Avalanche team. I think Taylor Hall could be a good third line guy for that team. Those are improvements to the depth of your team. It doesn't improve you at the top of your lineup. So I think if you're going for, they can replace some of the NHL production, or at least maybe give guys other opportunities up the lineup. Those are the two guys I would look at.
I'm going to throw a name in there and let me know what you think. Jason Dickinson. Does he move the needle at all for Colorado? Depth center, decent in faceoffs, great penalty killer.
Yeah.
Takes a bit of the PK load off some of the guys they have doing it already.
Well, and I've just kind of going through some tea leaves of the Avs. They're not entirely thrilled with Casey Milstat.
Yeah.
So that could be someone down the middle with Dickinson that maybe you throw into that center depth that maybe improves upon that. But I don't know. I again, like there is no one on this Hawks team that you're going to trade that gets even close to Mikko Rantanen.
No.
So it would have to be probably a group of NHL players. And then you're probably talking also a top end prospect, top end pick or picks, because that's a big loss for the Avs.
Huge. Yeah, it's a massive loss for them
not have Rantanen, especially in the middle of the season. I can't imagine that they trade him in the middle of the season, but if that's the route that they go, rather than just letting him walk if they can't get a deal done, then that would be huge.
Well, the thing too is they have to be realistic. Joe Sakic and his crew have to be realistic. Do they think, as currently equipped, or maybe with some deadline tweaks, they're a Stanley Cup contender? Do they think they have a legitimate shot of winning the Stanley Cup this year? And I don't watch 82 Avs games a year. I see a lot of what our DNVR people are saying, and our old friends Jesse and Megan at Guerrilla Sports, like what they have to say about the Avs. And I see a lot of frustration from the people that I trust the most about the Avalanche. So I don't know if the belief is fully there that this is a team that legitimately has a chance to win a Stanley Cup. I will say the West feels pretty open right now. There's no clearly greatest team there. You know, there's a bunch of teams I can make an argument for, including Colorado.
Right.
I don't know. I think they might just take another run at it here, and then you try to deal the negotiating rights to Rantanen. You're not going to get as big of a return, but it starts an off-season bidding war. Maybe you involve a third team. I don't know. If it'd be really hard for me if I was Joe Sakic, and Lord willing, someday I will be, running that team, staring down the barrel of the playoffs, and moving Mikko Rantanen ahead of that.
Yeah.
There's nothing you're going to get back that's going to make you even close to better.
No. I mean, they're currently the top wildcard team in the West. The first wildcard spot. 2 points back of Dallas for third in the division. 3 points back of Minnesota for second in the division. But they've also played more games than both of those teams. So right now you're looking at the Avalanche as currently constructed, sitting in a wildcard spot. You don't get better by trading Mikko Rantanen. There's in no way, shape, or form do you get better. And you know, the Avalanche team, like, they have some of the best players on the planet on that team with Rantanen and McKinnon and Makar. But in the playoffs, going up against the rest of the best teams in the West, if you can shut down two of those three, you might be able to shut down the Avs. So I think, you know, that the goaltending situation, they've kind of come around and figured that out a little bit. But I think if you're trying to be a cup contender and get every ounce out of that team, you have to do it with Mikko Rantanen.
I agree with that, but let's just play it out.
Yeah.
So let's say Hall, Dickinson, Toronto's first, and
it probably costs you like
Korchinski. That's a lot.
That or Nazar or Oliver. Like it would have to be someone that you could say next year is on the Avs or in on the Avs NHL team or in the discussion to be on their team, because their window is open. I don't necessarily think that they're getting rid of Mikko Rantanen to say, well, we're going to stockpile futures off of that. Like I don't, that doesn't benefit them in my perspective. So I don't know. I think if it's what would be a late first round pick, another first round talented prospect who probably should be in the NHL, 2 NHL guys, and then you got to figure out, as Deadhawk asks on top of it, you got to figure out the extension for Rantanen.
Yeah.
Do you figure that out? Like,
I think you
got
got
to sign and trade like they did with Seth Jones.
You have to have some sort of idea of extension totals and have it wink wink done before the deal's made.
The sign and trade means that you're trading for the guy on that contract. So that changes things, because if you were trading for him as a rental, the price is different.
But, you don't trade what we're talking about. You don't trade for Rantanen unless you know he's here for the next 7 years.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So you wouldn't trade him without anything ready to go. Because then, if you trade all that for him and then say, okay, now we're going to open up negotiations, and then you don't come to a deal, you've screwed yourself.
You have to know.
Yeah.
You have to know. All right, there's one question down. I hope we I hope we made that work. Want to get to this question from Eddie on Twitter. He says, you get any sense of Kyle Davidson being on the hot seat? I know they're in a rebuild and have a ways to go, but there's been enough talent added the past 2 off seasons to expect more. We know of the farm system, but at what point should we expect progress at the NHL level? I don't think his seat is hot at all. I mean, conversations, we were pretty open about it last night, that Danny Wirtz and Jamie Faulkner were in our booth, and they seem pretty pleased with the way things are going in the organization. Mm-hmm. Yes, the NHL results have not been there, but I haven't done the math of what would the point pace be for the Hawks under Sorensen if he had been the coach all year, what that would be.
Let me do some math.
But doesn't it feel like that would be kind of what we were expecting, that point pace? Because we still thought they're a bottom 5 team.
Right.
And they're no longer last. Take that, San Jose.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I mean,
I don't think his seat is hot, but I definitely think it's not ice cold like it has been. Because I think this is this off season was the first test of, okay, like, what can you do with trying to improve your team now? Because he had gone through 2 seasons of the teardown. So, like what can you do when you need to start building things up? And I think Tyler Bertuzzi has been good job. That was a good signing. Early returns on that. I know he's got a 4-year deal. Early returns on that look great. Teuvo Teravainen hasn't been a home run, but to bring in a guy that's
a nice double, RBI double.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's a line drive in the gap. Like, it's been a little streaky, but even that, he's your second highest point producer behind Connor Bedard, and he's playing into his role pretty well. The rest of it, like Pat Maroon, okay, he's lived up to what he should be doing, but he's not a guy that's like a needle mover. Craig Smith, until he got hurt with the back issues, same kind of thing. He's kind of done what you expected, but it's not a needle mover. Brody's been bad. Alec Martinez, when healthy, has been serviceable. Laurent Brossoit, he is alive. He is technically around the team. And we saw a photo of him last night. Evil Bills gave us proof of existence of Laurent Brossoit.
I don't know.
But he's basically washed an entire year away. So, again, like I think that's kind of a rough go of it, I think, based off of the expectations of what this free agency class should have brought to the table for this team. So I think it turns it on from, like, if you're going all the way to 11, it's on a 1, because it's the first, like, hurdle, and it's kind of like a little bit of a stumble of it. But the grander scheme of what Kyle Davidson is going to be judged on, and what will really crank up the heat on his seat, is if this first wave of his rebuild, Korchinski, Nazar, Rinzel, Oliver Moore, like these guys, if they don't pan out to what the expectations are of them at the NHL level over the next season or 2 or 3, then you're really starting to look at it and be like, what is this rebuild doing?
But hot seat to me indicates could be fire within the next calendar year. And I don't think that's the case at all. Something catastrophic would have to happen for that to happen. And I don't think we're there yet. All right, we're going to hit the break zone for the first time. If you've not hit the like button, and a lot of you have not, holy moly, 41 likes. What are we doing? Hit that like button for us. It's right there by the play button. Hit that button. We'll be back with more of your mailbag questions on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast. And no matter what your outdoor activities are, it's always important to have the best view. Me, as a middle-aged man, I've recently taken up birding. I like feeding the birds and looking at the birds and watching the birds and learning what the birds are and what they sound like. And I need a good pair of binoculars. And guess what? Right On Optics offers a full range of optic products. Here they are, right here. Here, Mario.
That's a nice looking.
You could read me the questions.
Binoculars. Look at these things.
They're awesome. They're high quality. They're we'll tell you all about them here in a second, but they're amazing. If you're into birding, if you got kids in sports and you got to sit far away, get these. You've been told you have to sit in the parking lot, sir.
Get these things.
Get yourself a pair of Right On binoculars. They offer higher performance at a lower price. They're the perfect balance of performance and value, and they won't break the bank. Right On Optics has been around for over a decade, and they have an unlimited lifetime warranty, which covers not only defects but also accidental damage from drops. So if you're up there in the tree trying to catch that snowy owl and you drop your binocs, you're all good. Right On's got your back. Get a better look at everything. It's quality products you know you can trust. Check out the full line of Right On products today at rightonoptics.com/CHGO. That's RITON optics.com/CHGO.
I see Sean Anderson.
Mario is studying the pores on Sean Anderson's face.
I can really...
Looking good.
I can read Cody's lips. He's talking smack about us over by the microwave. These are awesome.
Let's see. I want to see how much time is left on the microwave. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are nice. And hey.
Oh, my God.
If you get yourself a pair of those beautiful, high-quality Right On binoculars, you can use them at sporting events. Sporting events that you go to in person that you need a ticket to. And you can get a ticket to those events with our friends at Game Time. Game Time has a new awesome feature called Game Time Picks that makes it easier for getting tickets to any event that you want to go to, because Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. Game Time Picks, its curation makes it super easy to find tickets to sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, theater shows, anything that you want to put your butt in a seat for. Game Time can help you get there, and they have the all-in pricing feature, which allows you to see the total up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. They got the view from your seat feature as well, so if you're going to a venue that you've never been to before and you want to see what your view is going to look like from the seat that you want to purchase, you can do that. Make sure you're getting the best view, and Game Time has their low price guarantee, which means if you are scouring other inferior websites and somehow find a ticket, the same ticket that you're looking for at a lower price than what Game Time's offering you, you can bring it to Game Time and they will credit you 110% of the difference. That's how much Game Time cares that you're getting the best deal through them. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code CHGO, and you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CHGO. You're going to get $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
All right, I know it's a bonus, but I was using those as you were reading.
Yes.
That I've never seen binoculars like that before. It was like looking at an HD. It was like VR. It was like HD quality. Every other pair of binoculars I've used, everything's been kind of wonky. Like, oh, okay, I can kind of see.
Yeah.
I was actually, Sarah has 3 buttons on her hat, and I could read every letter on her hat buttons. It was pretty cool. Those are sweet. Get those Right On binoculars. I might have to steal those.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, steal some signs from the first base coach when I'm doing softball. There you go. All right, let's get back to the mailbag. Again, make sure you hit that like button for us. We'd appreciate that. And let's get back to our Die Hard Discord. You gotta zoom that in, Sarah.
Use your binoculars.
I know, really, I should. Hawkeye7720 says, "Hey guys, what's the status of CHSN? I'm out of network, so our ESPN broadcast uses the CHSN feed. The intermissions and broadcasts look good, but are the CHSN executives still holding out for a better Xfinity deal? Is there a point when the Hawks or Bulls can force the CHN execs to accept the deal?" That's an interesting question, and I wouldn't say the Xfinity thing is dead, but
it seems
nothing's changing.
Yeah, it's the same as it was before the season, where Xfinity is saying you're going to be on this tier, and that's that.
I don't know what they're waiting for, because here's my thing: if CHSN is charging you $20 a month to watch the Hawks
for the app,
or I forget what it is for. Is it 38 for everybody?
It was 20 a month for specific teams, and I think 30 for the bundle.
Okay.
Which, again, you're bundling Hawks, Bulls, and White Sox.
Regardless, you're asking people for money aside from the people watching it on the antenna who lose replay, lose rewind, lose record. So fine. If it's on the highest tier, at least you're there and you let those people make that decision for themselves, right? Because I think at this point, the people that haven't changed either don't care enough to change or don't really want to go through the hassle of changing. Like, the idea for someone like my father to abandon Xfinity after 30 years to learn new software of Hulu or Fubo or whatever it might be, to him, he's like, nah, screw it. I'll just wait. I think that's a lot of people. Most people in Chicago, even those that call themselves sports fans, are casuals. They're not living and dying and watching every Hawks game or every Bulls game or every Sox game.
It's a smaller percentage than the entire fan base.
Yeah. So I think they're willing to just hold out until Xfinity figures it out, and if they don't, they'll just lose interest, and that's the worst thing that can happen to you.
Yeah, and I think what's working against CHSN in this scenario is none of the teams are must-watch TV.
No.
So, I mean, the Bulls are the same that they've been for the last few years, just gunning for that 8th, 9th, 10th spot in the East and do the play-in round. Blackhawks, if you're watching this show, you know exactly how they've been the last few seasons. White Sox last year were the worst team in baseball. So the demand for that coverage from people who are more casual viewers are, it's a lot less than if any of those teams were going to be contending. I mean, in my rec league, hockey league, it's full of Blackhawks fans, and a lot of them are just like, the game is just not available to me, and I'm not going to go break my back to go and watch it.
Nope.
And it's, so it's working against them in that spot. So they have the app available. I think their other options are out there. I know Fubo is an option that you use.
Yeah, I like it.
We have the antennas here at the office; those work. So there's ways to do it, ways to get around it, but still reaching your grandest audiences through Xfinity. And if they're not there, they're just nothing's going to change. It's really who's going to blink first. Yeah. I think Xfinity has got their eyes taped open like Clockwork Orange. Like, they're not going to blink. They're giving them the deal, so
they don't care.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I forget where I saw it. But it might have been Jeff Agers. I can't remember exactly. But the cable watch or the providers like Xfinity and whatnot, the audience that watches that primarily for sports is like 10%. It was extremely small compared to what you would think it would be.
Well, that's crazy because the only thing I watch live is sports.
Right. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I don't tune into cable or network TV shows live. I watch them streaming, after the fact. There's very few shows that
like special events like award shows.
Yeah.
Maybe SNL I'll catch live if I'm home.
Right. Yeah.
But everything else, everything episodic television, I'm watching on demand
after the fact. Yeah.
Oh, so that surprised me, but
so it seems like it's just kind of the same. So until it changes, it is what it is.
I hope it happens soon, but I think at this point, if you're a Hawks fan and you're dying to see every game, you might want to consider a switch. I'm just saying. Or get the app. Yeah. Love that movie about seafaring swashbucklers. All right.
Yeah.
Rick 22. Seems like most Chicagoans are happy with the new Bears head coaching hire.
Seems like they are.
Who are the top 3 preferences you would like to see the Hawks hire?
Ooh.
Got into this a little bit last night.
A little bit. Yep.
I mean, John Cooper is obviously the golden goose. If somehow Tampa's like, thanks, John Cooper, thanks for your service, we're gonna find someone else, then throw everything at him to make it happen.
Yeah,
that's the dream. It probably won't happen. I think realistically, Mike Sullivan, if Pittsburgh decides to move on from him, I love that fit. That would be great. I'm down with that. And I do, for me, the David Carl thing is very intriguing, considering where the Hawks are at in their rebuild. Lots of young players. Moore and Nazar played for him. Sam Renzel plays for him. So there's a lot of things that make sense from that regard. So if you want to bring in, try to get the young hotshot that you think is going to be the next big thing, okay, I'm down with that. So if I'm giving you 3, those are my 3. It's 1 dream and 2 semi-realistic possibilities.
Yeah, more realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with the idea of giving David Carl a shot with a team that doing that with a team that you know is going to be young. I think that's the thing. For me, with Carl, it would be like bring him in, and next year is a young roster, because I think that's where you have the best opportunity to allow him to connect with those young guys, because he has that experience with Team USA and with at Denver and everything. Like that's where he kind of fits in. If you go with Sullivan, not to say that he can't also do that with a younger team, but I think if you go with Sullivan, you probably have a little bit more of a veteran presence on the team. And yeah, like you're not going to go strictly only 21-year-olds next year. But I think if you go with a guy like David Carl, you might have an opportunity to have Frank Nazar, Kevin Korchinski. Bedard's next year will only be 20. Colton Dock, like you have these young guys, Landon Slager, like these young guys that'll be kind of coming up. Give them that chance and let them grow with the young coach who has the ability to kind of connect and coach with the younger group of players. I think that's a good way to go. Sullivan, I think, is a good option. One name that I think would be interesting is out there, has connections to the team. Don Granato, I think would be an interesting name out there. I think things didn't go so well in Buffalo, but that was in a similar situation. You'd like to think that this front office and this GM is setting up the Blackhawks a little bit better than how Buffalo had gone through their rebuild.
Yeah.
That could be an option as well. Is he at the top of my list? No. But
that feels like such a meh. Nothing. I mean, the Granados are hockey royalty. They're local. All these, yes, right? Like,
right.
Sure. But when you talk about Buffalo being set up, like, Dahlin's pretty good. Tage Thompson's pretty good. Owen Power, like, it's not like he was without tools and assets to win. Mm-hmm. Jeff Skinner was still there. Like, they weren't, I don't know. I don't feel like whatever failures Don Granato had in Buffalo can be simply chalked up to, oh, they didn't do a good enough job giving him personnel. I don't believe that to be the case.
Yeah.
I mean, if it gets to that point and he's being interviewed, I would love to talk to our buddy Sean DePaz from What Chaos, who is a huge Sabres fan and will not hold back on things. He will not be diplomatic about it. That's just kind of the vibe I've gotten about Granato is he's fine, but it feels kind of like another, not to say another Luke Richardson because he's a little more experienced in that, but I don't know. I don't know if that, like, I want a coach that I feel can get them over a hump, can take them to another level.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if Don Granato is that guy.
That's
maybe.
Fair.
But if I'm betting today, I'm going to bet no on that one. It's going to be a no for me, dog. Or a meh for me anyway.
Sure.
All right, we've got to hit the break zone one more time, and then we'll be back with your super chats and the rest of your mailbag questions coming up next on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
Hey, are you in the market for a new vehicle?
Yeah.
Well, wonderful.
Actually, no, but
listen up.
I'll play along.
For those that need a new vehicle, you can save on a new car for you and stick to your New Year's goals by shopping Ray's Resolution, going on all month long at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. Head in today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models with special New Year's prices. Right now, you can take 10 to 20% off MSRP on select new Chevy models or shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our friends this January at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake, or you can go to raychevrolet.com. And if you've heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you've also heard of Ray's Price Promise. It's their guarantee to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees. That means the incredible prices that we're talking about right now, you can expect to see the very same when you shop Ray in-store or online. So, again, go to raychevrolet.com. You can also visit them in Fox Lake. And again, those prices, 10 to 20% off of MSRP right now on select new Chevy models and over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Yes, let's do that. And with all the money you save there, play some daily fantasy with our friends at Prize Picks. It's the best way to get action on sports in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and Florida. Florida. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million members and sign up today. We love Prize Picks because you just it's very uncomplicated. You go to the sport you want. You say, hey, or less than. Seth Jones going to have more or less than 3.5 shots on goal? You pick them. The more players you pick, the more you'll win. It's awesome. And Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits in your account this sports season. It's so much fun. Love the Prize Picks app. Download it. Go to get it today and use the code CHGO, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app, use code CHGO, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
Backtracking a little bit.
Yes.
The points pace that the Blackhawks would be on if they continued what they've done under Anders Sorensen so far through 21 games would be 62 points for an 82-game season. A 10-point improvement from last year.
5 wins better.
Mm-hmm.
Get more, yeah.
If they played the way that they're playing right now over the last 21 games for the 82-game stretch this season, they'd be at 62 points, which is still, it's an improvement, still under what I think.
Yeah, I think we were all thinking 70.
All of us, yeah, at least 70.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think into the mid-70s was that'd be wonderful. And falling short of it. It's still an improvement, but it's still falling short of what Kyle Davidson kind of laid out as the expectation.
Agree. All right. Super chat time.
We'd like to remind you folks, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Windy City Hockey, $2 says, is it me or is CHSN killing the Hawks fan base? Well, I don't think they're out there literally murdering Blackhawks fans. That would be bad.
I hope not.
But I think that not being able to watch is not good for your product, despite what Bill Wirtz believed. It's not a good thing. That's for sure.
Because it's not widely available. It's not packing the UC. That's for sure. It doesn't make it. It doesn't help.
Yeah.
But also the product on the ice also doesn't help. I think you combine a lot of those. You combine those two factors together, and there is a sense of kind of apathy towards the Blackhawks from a lot of people of just I can't watch them, and they're not worth watching on most nights. So why should I bother? I think if you let that seep in for too long, you're gonna have a problem. Which is why I'm advocating more for next season to lean into that. This is the future of the organization. Here is Bedard and Nazar and maybe Reichel and Korchinski and Vlasic and Allen and all of these guys. Like, here they are in the NHL. Let's see what they got. Get excited about these new guys that you can all fawn over and project and all that stuff. Like, that's why I think going that way is not only do I think it's fun, because it's this process of the rebuild. Now you see some of these guys start to realize their games in the NHL. I think some of these guys you're seeing take steps forward to earn spots in the NHL. And then also, too, not that you want to run a hockey team from this mindset strictly, but it also, I think, marketability within the fan base, get the fan base hooked on to these guys that you are saying are this next generation. Get them invested in these young players and have them start to really love these guys. And obviously their play on the ice is going to dictate a lot of that too. But you start pushing those guys more, then I think you have an opportunity to kind of pull back people into that realm of like, this Blackhawks team is going to be worth your time. Yeah,
and again, just piggybacking on that, like, if the results on the ice are there, it will encourage people to find ways to watch CHSN, and more people will pay for it, and more people will maybe change providers or whatever it might be. Now that motivation just isn't there. What happened? They lost 5-2. Okay, fine.
Right.
Glad I missed it. Thanks.
Winning cures a lot.
What did Bedard do? Okay, great. Thanks. Next. Yeah. All right, and Tyler Johnson, Blackhawks legend, for $10 says, from what we have seen from Bedard so far, what is the max extension he's eligible for, and what do you think he will receive? I've talked myself into Cancer being the steal of the 23 draft. All right, so two separate thoughts there. I saw this was written in November at The Athletic. This was done by Scott Powers, and he was speculating that Bedard would take up about 15% of the Hawks cap. If that was the case, based on projections, that would be $15.6 million. That would be if he was hitting massive, massive numbers, which he's not. This was written in November. I think you're looking more.
15% of the cap is $15 million?
$15.6 million.
So he's saying the cap is $100 million?
Oh, if it's $96 million, that's kind of the...
I guess that's close.
Yeah. I think what Powers says here, and that's the dude I trust the most, somewhere between 10 and 13 million.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because he's not... You don't want to... I'm going to sound pessimistic. You don't want to max out Bedard thinking he's going to be Connor McDavid, and then he ends up being less than that.
Right.
I think you're obviously he's not going to say no to that kind of contract.
That would be reckless spending.
Right.
He's also restricted.
That would be too much. Right. Yeah. You also don't have to give him max money, max years if you don't want to, but obviously I think players will like that kind of security. I think somewhere in the 10 to 13 range is very fair for what he is doing, should do in the future, and what he's going to mean to the team. The term is going to be interesting. The max you can go is 8 years. Is he going to want to do that, or is he going to want to do 6? So that he's going up for his third contract when he's 26.
Well, and that's what Powers is speculating here. So I'll read this paragraph again. Find it for yourself. Scott Powers at The Athletic. He says that if the Blackhawks can persuade Bedard to sign an 8-year extension, it'll likely be a massive number at the time, but more digestible in the long term. For example, if the cap ceiling increases to around $96 million for the 2026-27 season, and Bedard seeks 15% of that, about what Matthews and McDavid got in their second deals, Bedard's cap hit would be $15.6 million. If Bedard isn't producing at their rates by next season, 10 to 12% might be more realistic, which could be in the range of 10 million to 13 million.
Mm-hmm. And this is from November, before the reports this last week, where it said projecting 92 to 93 million for next year, but more likely now with the escrow being wiped away, more likely higher than that, maybe even 97 million.
And that's what he's saying
for
is that
this upcoming season.
That 96 million he referenced was for 2026-27.
Right. So it might. So by that, it might even be into triple digits.
So are you willing to give him 15 and change to lock in those 8 years, betting on Bedard, betting he's going to be what people think he is? All the numbers are right there. We've been through it. When he hit his 100th game, he was right there with Matthews, ahead of McKinnon. Like, he's producing where you think with very, very little help.
That was going to be my point.
Would you be willing to take that bet that in 5 years or 4 years, that's going to be a bargain? Or do you go 6 at a little bit less and then have to figure it out? And then he does become what you think he is. He's in his prime at 26 and now needs a new contract right when you are about to be ready to win.
Or probably are in that
firmly in that window. And you got to find a new contract for Connor Bedard, which in 6 years from now, 17, 18, 19 million hours, maybe?
Probably 20.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the growth of the league as it's going up. Yeah. I mean,
I am more inclined to take the bet on Bedard.
Yeah.
Give him the 15, whatever. And then for 8, and then you've got Nazar, Korchinski, all these guys who you burn their first year. You're going to get to that next contract.
Nazar is expiring this summer.
Yeah. And Nazar, it's actually very smart because now the Hawks can look at Nazar this offseason and be like, well, you played about the total of a third of an two-thirds of an NHL season, and your production hasn't been huge. So how's $3 million sound? $4 million sound?
Or no, Nazar's not.
Yeah, isn't he?
No, next season.
Oh, after next season. Okay.
Next season. My bad.
But still, they're not going to break the bank.
He's open for a extension along with Bedard at the same time.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the production we've seen in the first year and a half of Bedard with no help gives you confidence that when he gets legitimate help, he's going to be putting up numbers that would be worthy of 15 million. So I think that, and this exact conversation is why they brought in Chris O'Hearn.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, this is someone who this is their job is figuring out how to balance all of this and negotiate the right way to make sure that teams getting what they need, players getting what they need. I think if you could entice Bedard to be like, here's 13.5 for 6 or 7, like you might be able to do that because then you give yourself just a little bit more of that flexibility. But again, like I'm not going to be up in arms if the Blackhawks go max on it, figuring that he will earn all of that.
Yeah, I don't think that, and we have a little PTSD from Sam Bowman because he was always all the money, all the term, all the no movement clauses. And you've seen teams around the league and look, like Connor Bedard idolizes Sidney Crosby, and Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin are guys who their entire career have taken less than market value to keep the team competitive and to bring in help for them. Right. I wonder if that, I feel like winning is more of a motivator to Connor Bedard than money is. And he's going to have so many opportunities to make extra money outside of the team. Look, if he's saying, no, I want 8 years, 15.6 million. I want 15% of the salary cap. I will accept no less. Great. I have no problem with that because he has earned it to this point in his career, and fine. But I get the vibe that he would be more interested in taking a little bit less to help the team out and to help himself out on the ice so he can get some wins. The kid, all he wants to do is play hockey. Right. He has no interest in anything else. There's no off ice. There's no bars at night. There's no, like, the last group of guys, there were always those off ice stories about, oh, they were at such and such bar and doing this and that. No, Connor Bedard doesn't go out. He stays home
legally.
Well, never stopped guys before. So I think that he is more interested in winning. Yeah. And I think looking just at Sidney Crosby alone, he sees what his willingness to take a little bit less did for him long term.
Yeah, I think that is an example that you can present in front of him to kind of make that case of like that those Penguins teams, they had those guys all together for this long and had all that success because they were able to bring in other guys of that caliber at those big contracts and make it work. Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, their second contracts were identical. Both of them took up just about 10%, a little bit over about 10.5% of the cap at that time. And that was through the 2010 to 15 range. And then obviously after that summer after the 15 Cup, they had the other extensions kick in, which were 15% of the cap at that time. So I think if you bring it back to even just Blackhawks, big contracts, Blackhawks of the past, you look at that and say, well, Bedard doesn't have a Toews, or Kane, however you want to view him, doesn't have a Toews that's also taking up the same amount of money. So you look at it and say, like, okay, those guys combined took up 20. If you take up 13%, we can work with it moving forward that way, and you can continue to field competitive teams as much as possible with the flexibility you have.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Bedard signing for $9.8 million forever. That would be wonderful, Jason T. I would absolutely sign up for that. A lifetime contract at $9.8 million.
He loves Sidney Crosby that much. Crosby's damn it, I should have been 98.
Yeah, 9.898.
He should take $6.6 million to honor Mario Lemieux.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or
$2.2 million for Duncan Keith.
Yeah, exactly. All right, what else we got, Sarah? Brandon says, Mailbag Tuesday, what college prospect is most likely to make an immediate impact in the NHL? I assume he's talking about Blackhawks' current prospects.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I would think the closest college prospect to becoming a regular for the Hawks,
like immediate?
Yeah. I'm thinking Rinzel because he's got the size, but defensemen take a little longer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of on a fence between Rinzel and Moore, but I'm thinking Rinzel.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Rinzel feels like a guy that he is ahead of schedule in the idea of where he was picked, and the idea of when he was picked was like, 4-year project. He'll play at least 3 years of college, all that stuff. Like, he seems ahead of that schedule. This feels like his last year of college, figuring that he continues on the development path. Now, do they go, okay, you did 2 years of college, but now you're going to play a year in the AHL, and then you get up to the NHL? Like, that could be the case. I think that could be also the case for Oliver Moore, who is a year younger than Rinzel, but again, still on that same trajectory. I'd throw Ryan Green in there as well.
Yeah.
He seems like a guy that this is now his third season in college. He might be, again, once done with college, play a year in the AHL and then go from there. But I think your best bet is probably Rinzel. I think he's a guy who's physically maturing, continuing to. His game is developing at a much more rapid pace than I think previously expected. So I think too, when you look at the guys on the blue line and in the prospect system and where they could, fit into the future lineup, I think Rinzel and Korchinski are probably the two guys that are right there on that cusp. And Korchinski's already played in the NHL.
Yeah.
So I think I would consider Rinzel on that cusp, and that's impressive for a guy who's still just 20 years old.
Listed on his 6'5", 190.
He's a big kid.
Yeah.
Like he and when he was drafted, he was kind of, scrawny.
Bio.
Quote unquote.
That's the word I couldn't get.
What?
Listen on his bio. My
yeah.
brain just deleted the word bio.
He's a tall, skinnier kid, but he's definitely filled out over the last 2 years, and again, that's something that Korchinski's had to go through as a taller defenseman. Alex Vlasic has gone through it as well. Just that physical maturity. But I think Rinzel's at that spot where, you know, you're seeing more of that NHL build starting to pack it on. And as Brandon says, Aiden Thompson too, a guy who's producing at a high level.
Yeah.
Playing for David Carl, has won a national championship. Like, he's a guy that I think there's a lot of players that by the end of this NCAA season, you could see them in Rockford or Chicago for the last handful of games at the end of the year.
Can we? Bijan is very worried about a Louis Crevier extension. Louis Crevier will not be a problem for the Blackhawks to sign. There's nothing they should do like right now to give him big money long term.
Would you give Crevier a longer extension to lower 7 years for $2.5 million?
No.
What?
He's had a good couple weeks.
I'll give him a 1-year deal.
Yeah, let's pump the brakes on. I love the guy. He's been very, very good and improved a lot. But he's not a financial concern for the Blackhawks.
I know. We praised Crevier last night, but not to the tune of 7 years and $2.5 million.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
If you're paying a guy, if you find a player that is in that range of like $2 or $3 million, there is no reason you should ever sign them for longer than 4 years,
right? Because
you're locking yourself into a depth guy that could either the boom or bust is not worth that.
Yeah,
like no,
well, he's big and he's been good. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Louis Crevier, but Louis Crevier is a dime a dozen defenseman. Like, you can go find, maybe there's certain things he does better, but you can go find a number 6 defenseman as a free agent if you really need one. A big.
You also have a bunch in your system.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you don't need to lock in a 7-year deal on someone like that.
No, I think it's if he is extended, you're looking at 2-3 years, maybe $1.5 million per.
It'll be,
and he will take that and run with it.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
All right, next from Darth Nazar.
Yes,
I see what you did there. He says, not a Jones hater here, but given his recent play and rumors that an NHL exec thinks he could be moved, any thoughts as to which teams could feasibly take on Jones?
I mean,
Oilers.
Well, they just got John Klingberg, so all their problems are solved defensively.
God, that's crazy.
I mean, if you're looking at teams that are contending, that I would imagine that is where Jones would waive his no move clause to go to. He's not just going to accept a trade just to accept a trade. He wants to go somewhere where he's going to win. And potential cap space, or at least open to cap shenaniganery. I mean, there's some finagling that could be done in a Canucks trade. There seemed to be a hot team that might move big money players out. Golden Knights, they always seem to figure it out somehow.
They find millions of dollars in her couch somewhere.
He's a Texas guy. Dallas Stars.
I think Dallas is a team that would be pretty interested in Seth Jones. And if you remember, when the Hawks acquired him, that was the other team that was heavily involved trying to get him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you'd have to make the money work.
I mean, you got to get creative, but far be it from.
You want Tyler Seguin for the next 2.5 years at 9.8 to move Seth Jones out? He's 32 years old.
Maybe
it's a little help for Bedard. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, not at 9.5.
But if
now you just have another $9.5 million guy that everyone's.
But only for
mad
2
at.
years.
Sure, but then it's 2 years of people being mad that Tyler Seguin's taking up money.
I don't know,
and you're already already eating half of Jones.
Well, see, I think if you're just doing that, I don't think you're eating half of it. I think you're either if you're giving the whole contract, right? If they're taking a whole contract, then yeah, like maybe you have to give up an asset to make them do that.
Right.
You take very little back, but if you're giving them up for half price, you're getting something better than Tyler Seguin back. Tyler, then 32-year-old Tyler Seguin. I want a high draft pick back. I want something that's going to hurt that team for getting Seth Jones at $4.5 million, $5 million.
I want Jason Robertson.
I want Logan Stankoven.
And I want them both.
Can't score.
I'll take them both. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you can get creative with it, and with getting creative, you could also get a 3-team swap, so another 50% is taken by another team.
Yeah.
To make Jones a $2.5 million defenseman. That would be wonderful for the team acquiring him. But yeah, I think you can get creative. He's gonna want if he's going to be traded, he's going to dictate where he's going to go, and I think he's going to go to a team that if he's got 4.5 more years left on his current deal, he wants to contend for all 4.5 of those years. So I look at teams like that are winners now, are built to be winners in a few years from now, and could get flexible with it. Those are teams I look at.
By the way, Tyler Seguin is injured, probably out for the year. So that would probably, you can't trade IR guys.
No, you cannot.
So that wouldn't be able to do that. But it's something you can consider early next year, off season. There's ways you could explore it. But yeah, I mean, there's possibilities. Like this is what we've been kind of screaming about is everyone hates Seth Jones and says like, cut him, waive him, let him go. Like, no, he's a good player. The NHL believes that Seth Jones is a good player. And if you're going to say we're going to eat half his salary, a lot of teams, a lot of good teams, a lot of Stanley Cup champion caliber teams would be interested in bringing Seth Jones in. Mm-hmm. We're not making that up. That's reality. Right. The thing with Jones is the contract. That makes it tough. And look, it doesn't always have to be half. It could be a third. It could be a quarter. It doesn't have to be exactly half every time. And these are the things that we worked out. And again, you bring in O'Hearn as your new VP of hockey operations. The Blackhawks did that yesterday, reportedly. He's your capologist. He's your guy to figure these things out. So good timing as you've got Seth Jones, people calling about Seth Jones, and Connor Bedard's second contract on the horizon. It's a good time to bring in a capologist. Makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So, all right, we got time for one more, Sarah? All right, let's do one more before we wrap things up. Hey, do us a favor. We're right on that cusp of 100 likes. Get us over the hump. We have almost 300 people watching. Not even 100 likes. Come on, y'all. Let's do it. Hit that like button for us. We'd appreciate that.
Smash it.
Yeah. Give it the old smasheroo. Got one here from... Nope. Can't do that one. Can't read that.
It's from...
Something with an N.
Oh, we got it.
Yeah, pull it back up, Sarah. I need it to be zoomed in on.
Yeah. Zoom.
There we go.
Nicocino
says, if we got a first pick and then went with Schaefer in the draft, who from our defensive prospects pool would you be willing to trade away, since we will more than likely have a plethora of riches to work with at the position? I just want to, before we answer that question specifically, you don't have to.
You don't have
You can have Schaefer and Korchinski and Levshinov and Vlasic and Del Mastro, and it's okay to have all those guys. Renzel, yeah. And then figure it out. If you got 6 great defensemen, hello Stanley Cup. Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's 100% valid. You don't have to do it. I think though, in this draft, especially with how last year's draft played out, where you picked Levshinov, you tried to get creative to get Demidov as well.
Right.
But you went with Levshinov instead. I think if you get first overall and you believe Matthew Schaefer is the best player in the draft class, is an undeniable talent that you can't pass up on, then you have to get a young guy that is going to help Connor Bedard as a forward at or very close to his level. And so I think if you go Schaefer, the guy that I think you can move to get somebody to be that forward role with Bedard, that you kind of replace in a replacement plus scenario with Schaefer, I look at Kevin Korchinski. and I say, guy was a 7th overall pick. He's already played basically a full NHL season. Yeah. He's continuing to improve. I think a lot of teams love him as a prospect, and I think if you're looking for an equivalent forward, there are some guys out there in that same range of 19, 20, 21-year-old forward that's ready to be a stud that you could put alongside Connor Bedard.
Down with that, 100%.
Not that I want to.
No, yeah, of course.
But if you're in that scenario, that's the guy I think is I don't want to say easily replaceable, but is replaceable to where you're also what you trade him away for, that value coming back is going to be like really high quality.
Yep. All right. Lots of great questions. We thank you for those. We are off tomorrow. We are back Thursday. So maybe we'll tie a bow on some of these remaining questions. And I'm imagining the Hawks will practice tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So we'll have news from probably 2 practices. So we'll be with you Thursday at 2:30. Thanks for all the great questions. We'll try to do this at least once a month because there is a lot to catch up on, especially as the trade deadline approaches. I also want to remind people, we mentioned this once, when the Four Nations rolls around in mid-February, we'll be doing post-game shows for all the USA games and for the championship. So there's 3 USA games, then the championship.
Well, there's 4 USA games.
Well, yeah, the championship.
Yeah,
technically. So we'll be with you for those post games. So look forward to that as we move ahead. But we'll talk to you tomorrow at 2:30. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for getting us over 100 likes. Feel free to hit it one more time on your way out. We'll talk to you Thursday at 2:30 on the CHGO Blackhawks podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.